The transition from quarter one to quarter two here from March to April is one of my absolute favorites because in this season we are coming out of things are steady. We're not coming off of major holidays. Our routines are kind of are set for the next little while. Our school schedules are still flowing, and the weather's warming up, and so we're anticipating and being outside a lot more, at least here in the northern hemisphere where we're at, and so I just find that it's such a perfect time to reset in a couple of different ways. One, in your vision for the year. Like a lot of times we didn't have capacity to do it right off the holidays. There was so much happening right at the start of the year. Reset our digital life and reset our physical spaces. And so today I'm going to walk you through the process of resetting all three, doing your quarterly review reset, doing a digital reset of your online and computer and phone spaces, and then also in your physical spaces.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson, and this is the new way to thrive in motherhood by leaning into who you are, what you love, your unique family situation and personal mission to create a life that you actually want to live. I want to invite you to join me in saying no to the life of the exhausted supermom, burnout, victim thinking, being pulled in so many directions, suffering through survival mode, or being lost in motherhood, and say yes to building strong families and moving forward on our greatest goals in order to create a fulfilling life that we are excited to wake up to each day and become a soaring mother. This is the Thriving in Motherhood podcast.
I know we're going to give you a lot of information today, and so to make it really easy, you can head over to thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/reset to be able to just download a checklist of what we're going to cover today so that you can start making progress. So listen to the episode and then go grab the checklist and you can just follow along with the instructions there. To start off, let's talk about resetting, doing the quarterly review, where we look at our vision and projects and goals and habits that we are currently focusing on and that we're growing into in this next quarter in the season of our lives. And so what you're going to need for this is your planner. I'm going to be heavily referring to the Thriving in Motherhood planner, which I use. Photos, like your Google Photos, Apple Photos, whatever, to look through your calendar. And then what happened. A lot of times we have memories preserved on there really well. And then your digital calendar if you use one. So the very first step here is to review the past quarter. Now, the way that I like to do this is using my planner. In this Thriving in Motherhood planner, we have monthly review pages. And so every single month, and I'll show you mine here, you have the opportunity to write down what your focus for the month was, places that you went, things that you accomplished, what you discovered and learned, significant events for your family, and books you read or listened to, or podcasts or movies or whatever was significant for you that you listened to. And what's really powerful about this is that as you go through this exercise, it gives you the opportunity to celebrate and pause the treadmill of life and recognize, wow, so much more happened than I thought. So often our brains have this negativity bias. We look at all the things that didn't happen. And so we just want to pause and look at what did. So for your quarterly review, you may have been filling this out as you went, what you did in January, February, and March, but also there might have been some holes. And so the first step in the quarterly review is just to go back and review. It starts reset as an acronym. So R is for review, the past quarter. So you'll go back and look at your monthly review pages. If you've already filled them out, just read through them. If you haven't, you can use your Google Calendar, your digital calendar and photos on your phone to help you figure out some highlights and put some things in there. You'll also go ahead and review your goals and your projects, things that you have been working on in the past 3 months. One of the things I did this year that I thoroughly enjoyed, during this reset, is I pulled out my prayer journal. Now, I did an entire episode on this a few years ago. It's episode 218. I'll leave a link in the description for you. And I got this idea from a book. Again, all the detail, I don't remember what it's called, but all the details are in that previous podcast episode. But what I did was I went through and I hadn't written in it for a while. And so it was really neat to read through the prayers that I had written and then to write on the facing pages. I always leave a facing page, how those things have been answered. And it was really amazing to see how everything's been resolved since I last wrote in here. And it's pretty miraculous. And then I was able to write, reset and write a new prayer for the season that's coming up. So that's a really powerful, optional, but really powerful way to review where you're at in life. And then review your vision for the year. Now, if you wrote your vision in January or February, March, here, like at the beginning of Thriving in Motherhood Planner on page, 34, then you're just going to read through it and see how are you doing, what progress did you make on it. If you did not, then because the beginning of the year is crazy, you need to have bandwidth or time or whatever for it, now is a really great time to work through the vision section of your Thriving in Motherhood Planner. And starting on page 13, and there's a whole workbook section there, and you can get access to that at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com. It's on one of the top menus. You can find it there. If you haven't created your vision yet for the year, you can either do it with a planner, or if you already have a planning system that works for you, you don't want to get this planner, you can get just the workbook and my course that walks you through the process of creating your vision for the year, because it's really, really powerful. It's what gives you something to focus on and be excited about, and a reason to put your phone down and live your life. So that's what we want to work on with our visions this year. And March is just a really great time, because typically it's like things have settled down enough, and from not just only the holidays, but also jumping into the new semester of school, that we have just like this little window before the summer craziness starts to really be able to focus on it. Okay, so then the E in reset is evaluate what's working, changed, and what matters. And this is all built into the quarterly review in the Thriving in Motherhood Planner. So if you're following along with me, we're on page 132 now. And on here, you're going to answer the following questions. So if you don't have the planner, that's fine. Just open up a piece of paper, journal, whatever you are currently writing in. So write down memories to cherish. What was significant in the last quarter that you want to remember and cherish? What went well in the last quarter and what didn't go well? Now, these are not meant to make you feel bad, right? What we're trying to do in this quarterly review is increase our level of awareness so that we can make tiny little 1-degree changes moving into the next quarter and start to reduce some of the pain points that we're experiencing and lean into the things that are going well and repeating those. So that's the purpose behind it. So we're collecting data in this process. And then what progress did I make on my goals? What goals are no longer relevant, or what new goals emerged, and what goals will I focus on this quarter? So if you started the year out and you wrote a big list of goals, that's really fun, but it's not super effective in the sense that life just constantly changes. We just don't know what we're going to be facing during the next 12 months. And so really planning your goals out in 3-month increments is helpful, but also giving yourself permission at the end of those 3 months to say, okay, I just need to stop working on this right now, or I need to pivot, or this new information came up and this is my new direction. And so what I thought was really important and relevant isn't anymore, and I'm going to focus on this instead. So that's the purpose of those questions. Then we're going to move on to the S in reset, which is to survey your life. So you're going to complete a life assessment, which is also here in the Thriving in Motherhood Planner. It's on page 133 if you're following along. But you're going to rate yourself in different areas on a scale of 1 to 10. And the reason why we do this is because so often it's easy to get locked into thinking about your life in just like 1 or 2 domains, like thinking about yourself just as a wife, or just as a mother, or just in housekeeping. But the reality is we all have so much more to us than that. And so we want to every quarter check in and see how we're doing in each of those areas. Now, again, we're gathering data. It's okay if you have a low rating in something and you decide, I'm going to leave it a low rating. I do not care. That is not the priority right now. That's fine. This isn't like, oh, I have a 2 in this, I need to make it better. No, it's just giving yourself a second to pause, because often we feel so off and we don't know why. We don't know why we feel off, or why we feel grumpy, or why we're frustrated. And so when we can take a moment and pause and kind of take a look overview of our life in all these different domains, it helps to give us more information to be able to very intentionally move forward with what we're not focusing on right now and what we are focusing on right now. So the areas to rate yourself in, again, it's on the planner if you have it. If not, you can just do this on a piece of paper, which is intellectual, emotional, physical, marriage, parenting, social, hobbies or interests, work, which I like to split. Like if you are working either out of the home or, running a business or anything like that, you can do work. Also, though, I like to think of work as household management. So I look at it both ways, and you can rate yourself twice on that. Financial and spiritual. After you do that, you're going to answer the follow-up questions here after you've looked at this life assessment, which is, what is the most important thing for me to be doing right now and focusing on right now? And what do I want to stop doing, and what do I want to start doing? Because the reality is, if we are going to make some tweaks and adjustments, we can't probably just keep adding to where we're already at. We're going to have to take some things away to add some new things in. And so this gives you a chance to really intentionally pause and take some things out and put some things in. And then we're going to get to the E in reset here, which is envision the next 90 days and brainstorm possibilities. And you can do this on page 135 in your planner. But really, I just like to brain dump. So while we have added some, structured questions here and very specific reviews, this is just like your spot to just get whatever's in your head out of your head and onto paper about what your priorities are, what do you need to do, just like a full mind sweep so that you're not just like keeping it all in there and trying to keep in track. We want to get everything in your head, out of your head, on paper, and start to really think about what the next 90 days is going to look like for you and your family as you have now gathered all this data and kind of figured out where do you need your focus to be. And then finally, the T in reset is to target your priorities and decide what goals, projects, and habits you'll be focusing on. This can be done in page 136 to 139 of your Thriving in Motherhood Planner. We have some goal, project, and habit planning pages to help flesh out ones that you need to think more about. Some you might not. Some it might just be very clear. And you can just write it in like your weekly tracking or transfer it to each month has a project, goals, and habits page. And so you can just pick the ones for April that you're going to work on and write down what project, goals, and habits those are. And that's awesome. And then as you get to each monthly review, you'll go back to this planning page and decide, okay, these are the new project, goals, and habits I'm working on for the next 30 days. But you also have a weekly template on page 140 to 141 in your planner that allows you to automate some of these things that are important to you by just writing down when are they going to happen. So maybe you have events, like specific calendared items that are happening every single week for the next quarter. We'll write those down. If you have routines that you want to be doing or habits that you want to do at a certain time, write those down. Or systems that you want to be executing, write those down. And then if there's significant things you want to start adding in, like maybe a weekly date night, there's a spot for puzzle pieces, things that maybe won't happen at the exact same time every week, but you don't want to forget about them. And so it just gives you a way to start automating your priorities, because every week you can just pull up the template. It's going to change. It's just a starting spot, but at least you can see like, oh, I decided that these things really mattered to me. This is when I thought it might work this week, but let's adjust them so that it will work for me week after week. And I'm doing those things that matter most. So that is the end here of your quarterly reset. Let me just talk through those 5 steps that we did. So first, you reviewed the past quarter, R. Next, E, you evaluate what's working, what's changed, and what matters. Next, you survey your life. Fourth, you envision the next 90 days. And finally, you're going to target your priorities. So that wraps up our first phase here of resetting for the quarter. Let's jump into step 2 now of resetting your digital space. So what you're going to need for this is your phone and your computer and also your planner. You might want to take some notes here. So the first area that I like to reset is my email inbox. Now, you might be someone who stays on top of your email inbox, but I historically have not been amazing at it. And so I decided, I want to reach my inbox zero. I want to develop better routines with my email by just checking it once or twice a day at a certain time, not constantly looking at it. Because what I've realized is I just look at it, I'm overwhelmed by all that's in there. My tabs like in my brain are open. I'm thinking, I should do this or I should do that. It's just taking up a lot of space. And it's overwhelming. It's not very fun. And so I'm not very effective in there. A lot of things fall through the crack. And so what I decided to do was create a new label called archive, and then the years of emails that I was labeling. So in my work email, that went from like 2021 to 2024 or 2025 even. And then in my personal email, it went from this last year, so 2024. And all I did is I selected all but the first, most recent 50 emails, and I just moved them to the archive folder that I created. Now, it's not like Gmail archive, so what's great is if I'm feeling stressed and I want to see all of those emails that I haven't dealt with yet, I can just click on that archive label and I will see them all as if it was my email inbox. But in my regular inbox view, it is clean except for those 50 emails. Now, the reason why I left those 50 emails is because those are the ones that I probably need to unsubscribe from, right? Or that are like urgent and have not fallen through the cracks yet. So what I then do is go through each email and deal with it. Now, there's 4 things that you will have to do with an email. 1, or actually 5. Let's add a bonus one. The first one is just unsubscribe. So go through, and anything that you're not opening, like maybe you've been on their email list for years, just unsubscribe. You're never reading them. It's just taking up space. It's cluttering it. Go ahead and do that. Or if you purchase a product and they put you on their email list, just unsubscribe if you don't want to keep buying things from them. Now, the other 4 areas, the remaining emails, after you've unsubscribed from those things that you actually don't want to keep looking at, are an email either needs to be added to a calendar, because it's an event, right? That's why we haven't deleted it yet. There's a time, place that we need to be somewhere that's in this email. 2, there's a task involved with it. Like a lot of times there's an action required when you receive an email. 3, you want to store it for information and reference it later. So you're like, I can't delete this. I want to read it. Like, I want to go back. I want to look at this. I want to pull some information out of it. There's a tutorial in there. There was a guide in here. Like, I want to read it again. Or 4, it's just an email that you want to read. It is a newsletter that you do like from somebody, right? It's something that you want to go through. And so those are their 4 places. Now, I set up a system for me to send my emails and use it to all 4 of these areas. So it's a sorting center. It's not a place where I am doing all 4 of these things. I'm not storing emails in there or doing tasks from there or keeping track of my calendar things in there, but I've set up a system that allows me to use my email inbox as a sorting center. And I followed a video from Tiago Forte, who wrote Building Your Second Brain quite a few years ago now, and he talks about how to clean out or like set this up for yourself. Now, my system has evolved pretty drastically as far as the specific apps that I'm using and how I send it to, but if you are just like, ooh, I need to set this up, his video is a wonderful starting place and you can always evolve from there. So I will include that video in the description if you decide I'm going to set up my system for managing my email inbox right now. That feels really good. But either way, if you go ahead and archive those emails, you now have, and sort your 50 and deal with them, then you can now decide how often do you want to be in your email inbox every day, which for me, I'd say twice a day. I like to do it after I've done my essential things in the morning, but before I jump into my homeschool day, just so that I can see if there's anything that I want to deal with. I can just know what's happening that morning. And then after I've had a nap and done another work block, because I take a 10-minute power nap every afternoon after I do my homeschooling with my kids and we finish lunch and we do all these and our chores and everything. I take a 10-minute power nap. I work for a little while and then I like to, again, just after my brain, I've used my top level thinking brain, I'll just quick sort through my emails. So that's the 2 times that I like to deal with it, and I just want to bring it down to 0. But again, the only way to keep doing it and staying consistently is by setting your email system up so that it's just a sorting center and that things don't get lost. So go ahead and do that. And then if you want to know and see a video of what my system looks like now, let me know in the description below, and that's like a whole nother topic. So let me know, we'll dive into that deeper. Okay, the next thing for your digital space is that I would recommend taking your phone and deleting most of the apps, like pretty much everything. On my phone, all that I am still using, if you've watched any of my digital minimalism videos or phone simplification videos over the last few years, I have mentioned, and I am still using the free version of Niagara Launcher. So I really like that. It sets up my phone to be just a black screen. I've set it to be black, and then it just has a few apps on here. Now, the apps that I have remained on my phone is the weather app, phone, messages, calendar, maps, camera, library for scriptures, Libby, which is my audiobooks, and then Notion, which I use as, well, that's a whole other thing, but it's my digital second brain. So that's on there. Now, if you swipe to the left on Niagara Launcher, you will have another full list of apps. And so I do still have apps on here like Audible. We do listen to some audiobooks that I've purchased on there. The calculator. I have course apps on there. So for courses I purchased, like Circle has an app, Kajabi has an app, Mighty Networks has an app. The platform that I run my courses on has an app, Go Collab. So I have those apps on there because I like that they all work without having an internet browser. So I might not want to have Chrome on my phone, but if I'm driving in the car and I want to listen to a course video, I can log into one of the apps and do that and still learn the things I want to learn, the things I've paid for, without getting distracted on all the all the wonderful things the internet has to offer. I do have Marco Polo on my phone, and I do have Spotify for listening to podcasts. My kids love to listen to Circle Around with me, and music. So, but I deleted like everything else really aggressively. Now, the lovely thing is that if you delete something that you didn't want to delete, you can always put it back on. But you might not miss it. And so it's a wonderful way to just pull the plug. We talk about, this isn't like an official technology fast. It's just like cutting yourself off to free up space for the things that you want to do. We started with this vision and the projects and goals and habits you want to work on. Well, one of the ways you're going to be successful is by just managing this space on your phone. And so the other element of that is that I started a list on one of my Think and Process pages here in my planner for this week to define my tech rules. Now, I have an entire technology video and download guide about doing a tech fast and setting up your rules, and there's a downloadable workbook that I will link below this video if you want to grab it. But here are some of mine that I'm developing, okay? So for me, the time to watch Marco Polo, because I'm in a book club and we're doing it, is going to be in the evening, like after, maybe while I'm like cleaning up the kitchen or doing some, I don't do it when I'm cleaning the kitchen, but as I'm winding down, maybe before I cut off my technology usage, that'll be one of the last things I watch. Or if I'm driving in the car by myself and I'm going to a doctor's appointment or something, I'll watch Marco Polo then. Then I need to complete work first in the morning. So before I touch my phone, it's on Do Not Disturb. Like, it goes on Do Not Disturb automatically at 8 p.m. And then I do not touch my phone again until I've done scripture study, I've had my time with God, I've been journaling, and then I've done some deep work in the morning. Then email, I will do it after the deep work, but I'm not doing it on my phone anymore. So my rule for email is it has to be on the computer because it's not effective on my phone. It's just opening up tabs in my brain that I'm not taking action on. I'm not sorting. So email has become computer only activity, and I don't want to do it when my brain is alert. I want to save it for when I'm tired, not too tired, but tired enough that I'm not wasting other people's priorities. I'm putting it above my own. I'm not wasting my energy on other people's priorities and putting it above my own. Then, with this pregnancy, I started watching like shows every night, like watching TV every night because, well, in large part, I was so sick and it was like so hard to eat at night. And so I would turn something on to just help me get food in and not think about how miserable I felt. And then by the end of the day, even though I'm not feeling as nauseous, I'm just exhausted. And so I would just lay in bed and watch a show. But I've realized that's not really serving me anymore. And I have other priorities. I have a goal to read all of the scriptures this year. And so I need to start swapping, I'm studying them in the morning, but those are like deep, slow study where I'm taking notes and I'm going through things. But I also just want to read them in a different way. And so I want to replace that time in the evening. And so, so cutting that show time off. I'm not doing that anymore. And then in the car, I can... you can listen to anything in the car if you have your, internet with you. And so I'm trying to switch that now to either I talk on the phone, like talk with friends or family, which I often do. And then instead of defaulting to listening to just anything that is fed to me on the internet or somebody's podcast or whatever, work on listening to just the audiobooks. I've got a long list that I'm working through. And so just switching, because I think one of the nice things about audiobooks is that, like listening to a book isn't a short trying to sell you something, get you to do something. Self-help books are, but like I'm listening for our book club, our deep dive book club, which there's another podcast episode about, with Madeline Casey. But one of the ones we're reading right now is all about animals and how they experience the world and their different senses. And so it's just fascinating, right? It's something that's interesting. It's getting my brain awake, and it has nothing to do with, something I have to do afterwards, right? It's just interesting. And so that is my big focus. Okay, the third area of digital space that I have reset is my Google Drive. So instead of having an endless stream of files, I've taken a leaf from, again, Tiago Forte's book, Building a Second Brain, and developed for a folder system. So I have projects, areas, resources, and archive. Now, I've started there. I find that whole system doesn't work super great for me, but the folder here that we're going to focus on is archive. And with that archive area, I shouldn't say that it doesn't work super great for me. I am still figuring out how it works for me. or if I'm using some other folder systems. But the archive one is fantastic. And so what I did is I just spent a little bit of time yesterday and went through and archived anything that I don't actually need to be using or looking at or referencing again. And if I like super didn't ever need it again, I just deleted it. But for the most part, just archived all these folders. And now when you open Google Drive, instead of having like this forever long running list of things, it can now be a lot more simplified, and I can just find really fast what I'm looking for. Now, the other really exciting thing about this is that, well, I will have to show you, but I've got great plans now to organize my Google Drive folder to match my life design Notion template so that every project or resource or file is linked into my database there and is organized so that it's like super easy to find when I want to find it for the reason that I want to find it. So anyway, that's a project. Let me know if you want to know more about that. And then that wraps up. So for our digital space, the 3 areas we tackle are email inbox, phones, and Google Drive folders, if that's relevant to you. That moves into our physical space now, which I highly recommend decluttering, okay? I just had this realization, and this might not apply to you exactly, but for me, I have set up our home to function at its peak really, really well when I'm at my best and I'm living my ideal life. And I just have come to realize that I'm not going to be living my ideal life for a very long time or ever, right? Like, life isn't ideal. And so why have I built a home where I can keep up on it on the good weeks and not so much on the rough ones? And so having said that, that's the lens that I'm decluttering this time. Like, there's been so many, we've been decluttering our home for 8, 9, 10 years. I read The Joy of Tidying Up when I had like little kids, like toddlers, you know, and now they're turning 12 this year. So it's a process, right? But that's my new lens of how can I simplify this so much that even when we're not in our best, even when we're in our worst, that our home is still a peaceful place. So that's what we're really focusing on. Now, practically, this means I put a big cardboard box in the back of my trunk so I can put things that I'm donating into there. It means that we've got garbage bags available and that I'm throwing things away. It means that now that I'm not using my phone, if my kids are, doing math and I'm in a room, and they need my help but don't need me right there the whole time, I'm trying to throw things away or figure out what I can declutter. Or when I have a spare moment in the evening, that's what I'm doing. Or if, it's a rainy day, we're in the kids' rooms working on it together. So it's just a priority now. And what I'm filling with my extra time is this project, decluttering. So I haven't stopped my life for it, but it is the thing that I do when I have a moment. And then the other part of this is starting a basic cleaning system. And I did an entire video or podcast episode on that last week that I highly recommend you watching. If you want something that is truly doable even when you are exhausted, and the principles behind what I chose to do and why, so that you can customize it for you and make something that works for your family without needing to buy a book or like a 12-step plan or need tons of checklists. It's just very simple and yet will make a really big difference into how your space feels.
Where you are planted, watch the blossoms grow.